Alright, so we learned what kinds of mortgages we could get last time around, so now let's just do them. The nice part about mortgages is that they are exactly the same as doing an installment loan in Chapter 14, except instead of being for, 48 or 60 months, it's just a few more. But otherwise, everything works exactly the same. All of these calculations, these 5 questions, I can still ask you these 5 questions. Same stuff we did back in Chapter 14. It's just that now we're going to do it for longer periods of time. The numbers are going to be bigger, so don't freak out when the numbers are bigger. Alright, so buying a $140,000 house, so either a really nice house down here in Janesville or a crappy house up in Madison. $140,000 in Madison is, yeah, it's not so good. At least not anymore. I don't know if property values have recovered in Janesville, but they have in Madison. I got my assessment for...
They're just starting to.
Yeah, I got another $15,000 tack onto my value of my house by the city assessor, so now my taxes went up another $200 or $300. Yay. So it's sort of nice to see that your house is worth more, but if you know all it means is that you have to pay more in taxes.
Because it's the same house.
Yeah, it's not like it changed anything, but from today to yesterday, now all of a sudden it costs me $200 freaking more per year to live in the damn thing.
It's not like it's a nicer
house. The
house.
houses are popping up all over for sale now. I'm like, look.
Alright, so how much did I put down on my $140,000 house? 20%? How much money did I put down?
$28,000.
$28,000. And why did I put 20% down?
Because you just had $28,000 laying around.
Well, yeah. Well, imagine if you will, that I had more than that laying around. Why did I just stick at 20%?
Oh, because of that insurance.
PMI, right? Personal mortgage insurance. If you don't put 20% down, you're going to pay it, right? So one of the things that you should do if you were going to start thinking about buying houses is to start saving up at least 20% so that you don't have to pay that on top of your mortgage and your taxes and your insurance, regular homeowners insurance. All right, so we put $28,000 down. How much did I borrow? $112,000. House-wise, it doesn't seem so bad. Trying to think about it. So, how much am I going to pay per month for my $140,000 house where I got a 7% loan for 30 years? The table that you use is the second to last page. It is truly the last table in the book that we haven't covered yet. Instead of using the top half, which is for short-term loans, use the bottom half, which is for mortgage loans, hence more than 10-year loans. Works the same way. Look for the 7% column. Go down to the 30-year mortgage. That's your number. I love using 7% because what's my number for 30 years?
10.
Oh my God.
Guys, that laughed over that.
And please remember that you take your amount financed divided by $1,000 times your table entry. $745.92. That's not a bad, that's not a bad mortgage payment, right? Reasonable-ish. You would think it's not so bad, a little shy of $750. So, assuming that we pay the minimum payment, or exactly $745.92 every month for 30 years, how much do we wind up paying in interest? Calculation, exactly the same. Again, though, make sure that you use the appropriate number of months, right? So the finance charge you calculate the same way. It's the amount of payments that you pay. $745.92. How many payments am I going to make?
360.
Yeah. Since it's 30 years, please don't forget that there's 12 months in a year. And then you get to subtract. Please be careful with this one. Subtract off the amount financed, not the price. Right?
Is this right? Is this
Yes,
number right?
it is right.
What?
Yes, it is right.
Very sad, the second part.
What's
Are
the
you
number?
serious?
Yes.
Read me the number. Give it to me.
I don't want to know.
$531.20, more than the house.
Yep, that's how it usually is.
Yep.
And that's just the interest. folks.
Yep.
That's why it's sad when you sign your mortgage payment.
When you buy a house, you 3-4 times the house payment.
That's exactly right. That tends to be how it works. This is not uncommon, right? To have the amount of interest you pay be literally more than the value of the house.
Mhm.
I mean, you're borrowing the money for 30
years.
years, right? I mean, that's a long time. And it's not like you're borrowing a couple of bucks, folks. I mean, this is why a lot of people, when they start looking at houses and start talking about this, think, well, maybe I'll just rent forever, right? Which, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad idea, right? But are you going to find a decent place to rent for $750?
No.
Yeah.
You might if you're lucky, and that wouldn't be so bad, right? But-
I don't know where you living for $745 even in Beloit.
Yeah, it's tough, right? But imagine if you did. You got lucky, you found a place that wasn't so bad for $750 a month. You pay that for 30 years. What do you have at the end of 30 years?
Nothing.
Nothing. At least, if you buy a house, what do you have at the end of 30 years?
A house.
A house. Again, do remember, though, that when you own the house, what else do you have to do?
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
It's tough. So, how much did I actually pay for my house?
$296,531.11.
So, my $140,000 house is really a $300,000 house. And of course, again, the idea here is that every time you make a payment on your house, what you're doing is developing equity, right? Every time, a little piece of that $745.92 that you pay goes back in your own pocket, right? You're buying the house so that when you are done making the payments, yes, you made a whole hell of a lot of payments, but now you have an asset that's worth $140,000, hopefully, right? Again, this is where a lot of people who were retiring 4 or 5 years ago ran into a bit of a problem. They were assuming their house was worth $100,000 or $200,000, and all of a sudden now it's not. Yeah, that kind of sucks. All right, so it is a gamble. I mean, anytime you invest, folks, you're gambling, right? Even in houses. I mean, one of the things that they would have told you 10 years ago was that the only safe place to invest is in housing. That's the only place that is guaranteed to improve its value all the time. Because that was true 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we had 50 years of home values increasing all the time. I mean, sure, there were a couple of small bumps in the way, but really, we had never seen what we saw in 2008 ever before. So, it was a bit of an eye-opener, because if you have something that's continually growing in value for 50 years, I mean, eventually you should expect a correction. 2008, 2009 was our correction. It was also a knife in the back, twisted and then twisted and then twisted, and then it came through our gut, and we're like, what's my gut doing on the end of this knife? Anyways, this is how it works. So,
That's why it's smart to make double payments if you can.
well, so let's do this same example, but let's change one thing. Instead of doing a 30-year mortgage, let's assume that we think we're aggressive and that we can handle it, we're gonna pay it off in 20 years. Now, just by inspection, if you're gonna pay this off in 20 years, what's going to change versus the 30-year loan? What's gonna happen to the amount of interest we pay?
Wow.
Should be less. In order to do that, what has to happen though?
Payment has to go up.
Right. Okay, payment has to go up, all right? So, it's a balancing act, but you know that that should be a minimum what's happening. Now, what the exact numbers are, we don't care, just make sure that the reality happens though, all right? So, we're gonna pay off this in 20 years. My down payment stayed the same, my amount financed changed the same, so let's just change the bottom three here. So what does my monthly payment become if I pay it off in 20 years?
869.12.
And how'd you get that number?
The 120,000, or 112,000 divided by 1,000 times 7.76.
7.76 is our table entry when we change it to 20 years. And what did you say that number was again? 8 something? 890?
869.12.
Oh,
So, note what you have to do. In order to pay off the home loan in 10 years earlier, what do you got to do? Pay more. No. Is it a lot more?
No.
No. I mean, it's 120 bucks or so, 125. $125 per month. And this is going to save you 10 years worth of payments. I mean, think about how much 10 years worth of payments is, right? I mean, what is 10 years is 120 payments. What's 120 times 750? That's how much money that you're not paying in order to pay this off a little bit earlier, right? So, what does our finance charge fall to? So 869.12. Remember that we're paying this off in 20 years now, not 30. Yeah, so multiply by 240 this time, not 360, because there's only 240 months in 20 years. And then subtract your amount financed. I mean, it's still not a nice number, but
Well, at least it's less than the house is worth.
Right.
what does our finance charge wind up being?
88,588 and 80 cents.
88,588
Yep, and 80.
and 80 cents.
Yep.
I got 96.
I got 9.
580.
Oh, my bad.
What did we get? I thought it was going to be 90 something.
96.
Oh, it's times 240, right?
96.58,
88.
88.
965. 88.
965,
28.
88
Yeah,
point
that's it.
8. Okay. All right, so at least notice the difference in the amount of interest we're paying, right? I mean, and that should make sense to you if you think about it for 10 years worth of payments, right? I mean, that's 10 years of borrowing a whole buttload of money. So how much do we actually pay for our house if we do it in 20 years? We're only going to waste $236,588.80.
Oh,
Why is it $236,588.80? Okay, remember that finance charge plus the price. Right, that's all the money that you pay.
oh.
Right. Plus the financing amount.
$60,000.
Yeah, I mean you save yourself 60 grand if you pay it off in 20 years instead of in 30. Again though, what do you gotta do to do that, right? You gotta make sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you can make a $125 sacrifice per month for 20 years, you can save yourself 60 grand. I hope you guys can find something to do with 60 grand.
Yeah. Is 7% typical?
7% for a first-time homeowner, home buyer with not a whole lot of credit, yes.
That's
If
expensive.
you've got good credit, you can get as low as 3, 4, 5% right now. I mean, my home I refinanced to a 10-year mortgage at 2.75%, which, I mean, that's about as good as you can do. Again, it was also, it refied down to 10 years. The shorter you pay, usually the better interest rate you get. If you were to do this kind of a game, more than likely the 30-year loan is at 7%, the 20-year loan is going to be at 6.5%. You should get 0.5% for each 10-year period you pay less.
See, I got bad credit. I'll be at like the 16%.
Depends on who you use. And 4 years ago, how long have you had it? 2, 3 years?
Almost 3.
Yeah, 2, 3 years ago, interest rates were really low. Right? I mean, if you had enough credit, if you had the credit to be able to borrow on a house 3 years ago,
It was a buyer's market.
Oh yeah, they were like, wow, okay, yeah. But again, it's one of those where nowadays the kind of credit has kind of gotten back to the way it should be to some degree. So finding anything under 4% nowadays is probably not going to happen. We're probably going to be at the 5s, I guess. But yeah, again, if you don't have a developed credit rating, 7% is not uncommon, even now. But what's the only the scary thing, folks, is the only thing that interest rates can do though is go up. Okay.
And as the housing market is recovering, they're just going up.
Yeah.
They can't raise it on you though, right?
Well, if you it depends on what type of mortgage you get, right? Because remember, you could get a fixed rate mortgage, you can get an adjustable rate mortgage, right? So you can get ARMs, and an ARM mortgage,
Not that.
yeah, I mean those will adjust with whatever the rates are. I mean, you could get an ARM right now for like 3%. I mean, it would probably, they guarantee you 3% for 1 or 2 years, and then it would start adjusting with the market, and it'd probably immediately shoot up to 6 or 7. But I mean, if you can fix it for 30 years at 4, 5, or 6% nowadays, it's probably not a bad bet, because in 30 years, I guarantee you that interest rates will be higher. Now, they may have come back down in 30 years, but at some point in time, interest rates are going to have to go up. They've been down historically low for 4 years, and that's scary. Or,
Money now.
well, yeah, I mean, for people who have money, they hate these low interest rates, right? My mom and dad, they were pissed when interest rates went down because they were living on fixed income, and their income was off of interest. And so when interest rates dropped to 2 or 3 or 4%, now all of a sudden their salary is basically being cut. I mean, that's all there was to it, right? Instead of living off their interest, they had to dig into the principal. So, a little scary. All right, so these are the types of calculations you have to do, though. It's, I don't.
It's same stuff, just using the longer term.
Yeah, same stuff, just longer terms. The numbers are going to be bigger. Be careful with the bigger numbers, okay? Don't, and make sure the decimal point goes in the right place, right? Don't assume that the number has to be lower and put it there, because that's...
That's what I was doing when you first said. I was like, I'm not saying that number. That's wrong.
But that is absolutely correct. All right, so. So let's do another example really quick, and then let's actually talk about how this works. Because the cool thing about this is all of this interest and these calculations that we're doing, they're really based off of something you already know. Sounds like this is rocket science and it's really, really, really fancy. It's not. So, let's see. So, should we go higher or lower? Let's spend more? Okay, so let's buy a $225,000 house. Good, so once you guys graduate and get your degrees, you're of course going to go out and immediately get a job that's paying you, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's lots of them around here.
Of course, exactly. There's tons of those jobs out there. Ask anybody, they'll tell you. You're not going to think big. There's no point. So we're going to, you're looking at the mansion down at the end of the street. You're thinking, I can buy that. No problem.
That's not a mansion right there.
Alright, so. True. It's just a nice. It's new, right? New construction. It's one of those. It's not a prefab construction either. It's not one of 4 great floor plans. It's actually,
Right now, $225,000 in Painesville can get you a really nice house.
See?
But it's still a buyer's market.
True. Right now, it's still, you can get something nice. You can probably even get something built down here, right? There's space. You go up in Madison, then there's nothing. Yeah, unless you want to go live out on a farm somewhere and basically have your backyard be a cornfield. All right, so I put 10% down, financed, the rest. Let's see, what do you think I got? 5.5%? Let's go with 5.5. At 5.5% for 30 years. Oh, let's do it in 25. There's 25, right? 25 is in the table?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So let's be slightly aggressive here. First time we're buying this, we're thinking, there's no way that the economy's ever going to go bad again, ever. Come on, if you're going to get paid $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, why not keep thinking it's going to last forever, right? All right, so let's do the standard calculations again, right, folks? Give me the down payment. Give me the amount financed. Give me my monthly payment. Give me my finance charge. And give me the total price, total cost. Or deferred payment price, whichever one you want to call it. But then we're going to learn, how does this actually happen? We maybe even can look at it and see. All right, so what's my down payment? And of course, when you're getting that $80,000 or $90,000 a year job, I mean, what did they do for you? They gave you, at the time of hiring, a signing bonus, and your signing bonus was basically $25,000. So that they sort of gave you an option that you can either take $100,000 a year salary, or we'll give you $90,000 a year and $25,000 up front. And you were thinking, I know I need a 10% down payment on that mansion at the end of the street. So I'll take the money up front and a slightly lower salary because I want to be able to have enough to put down and not have to pay mortgage insurance and all the other fancy stuff, right? So you took the cash. And now you have that much, and you still got a little bit left to pay closing costs and all the other crap that you have to deal with when you're buying a house. How much did you finance, though?
$202,500.
Try not to think about that number. It's just a number. It's a bunch of zeros. Who cares? Come on. You're living the high life. You're making the big bucks. It's all good. So, what's your monthly payment?
5.5, start at 6.5.
Oh, if you have the newer tables, you can get 5.5%. What are the newer tables if you don't have the newer tables? Do you not have newer tables?
6.15.
5.5% if you guys want to know.
6.15.
6.15 for a 25-year loan. You guys know how to do it. On the test, don't worry, your mortgage will not have a good interest rate. Sorry. The new copying of these things is all from the new book, but unfortunately I still have a few tables left from the old one. That's why some of them don't go under 6%. What's our monthly payment?
$245.
So money.
38 cents.
Oh, come on, that's chump change, right? You guys are making 90 grand a year. 12.45. Ah, shoot, you wind up paying $12.50 every month, anyways, right? So there we go. And of course, the other nice thing about this mansion is it's right across the street from where you work, so you don't need your car anymore. So. All right, how much do you wind up paying in interest on this house?
$171,114.
And what was 25 years? How many months is that?
300.
3. What was that number again?
$171,114.
Oh, come on, that's nothing, right? I mean, the house is worth more than that.
There you go, for once.
And so how much should we actually pay for this lovely little plot of land that we bought at the end of the street?
$396,114.
Woohoo! So we bought our $225,000 house for $400,000. Whoopie ding dong. All right, so again, be able to do this. Now, one of the things that they will do when you buy your house is give you what's called an amortization table. An amortization table is basically explanation of payments. Basically, it's going to show you what your payments are actually doing in order to pay your house. So the idea, again, is a lot like Chapter 10. Chapter 10, if you will remember, was simple interest. And the cool thing about mortgages, folks, is that's all it is. All of this calculation, all of this fancy stuff that we're doing, it's really just simple interest. Mortgages are simple interest calculations per month. And this amortization table just shows you how that works. All right? So your table, it's not an overly fancy table either. It's a 4-column table. And one of the columns is real easy. The problem with it is that it's a very big table, right? Because each row is going to represent 1 month's worth of payments. So how many rows are going to be in this table?
300.
300, because we're making 300 payments. It's a lot of rows. When you get this table from your financing company, whoever you're borrowing your money from, it's 6 or 7 pages long. Because it's 300 rows, right? I mean, that's a lot of printing. Again, it's the sort of thing when you look at it, you feel slightly nauseous. But it's okay, right? So the first column is just what your payments are, how much you're going to pay in that month. The second column is the interest that you generated for that month. The third column is how much of your payments is actually going off of your loan. And then the last column is how much you still owe. The first row is usually in red. It's just your starting point. How much did I borrow? $202,500. And then the first row is month number 1. All right, so how much did I pay on my first month? Assuming you don't make an overpayment at all, if you just make the minimum payment, essentially, every month, which is, there's nothing wrong with doing it that way, you give them $1,245.38. This money is going to pay however much interest is generated and whatever is left over is going to pay off some of your principal, and that is going to be how much you owe for the next month. So everything is done using good old simple interest, right? What's the formula for simple interest? Good old I equals PRT. If there's one thing you remember coming out of this class, hopefully it will be I equals PRT. Because that's really the basis of most loans and packagings, right? Even your car loans work this way, similarly. All right, so how much interest did I generate in this loan? Well, how much money did I borrow? $202,500. What interest rate did I pay? 5.5. Please convert it to a decimal correctly. And how long did I borrow this in my first period? Well, what does each row represent? 1 month. 1 month. How many years are there in a month? 1/12, right? 1 month is 1/12 of a year. So you literally, basically, just divide by 12 or multiply by 1/12. Either way you want to look at it. So how much interest for the first month? Shouldn't be an awful number. $928.13. So that's how much interest we owe. So when we make our payment, we cover the interest first, and the amount that we actually paid, or the amount of equity that we paid ourselves, that's how much goes into the principal paid account. So all you do, subtract these two numbers. $317 or something like that. So our $1,245 payment paid off a whole whopping $317.25 off of our loan. Yes, it is extremely depressing, I agree. But this subtracts off of the principal. So this number gets to go down by that much. Good. 202,183.75. 275, yes.
Oh, it's so close, let's do it again.
Again, remember, this has to happen 300 times. I'm only going to make you do 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 rows. But you should, this is the idea, right? And they should be familiar, right? Because this is kind of what we did back in chapter 12 and 13, right? I showed you the long way first, and this is the type of long way that you do. You get a pattern, and then you repeat the pattern over and over and over again. And hopefully the pattern leads to a happy ending. Yeah, exactly.
And that's just assuming you're making the lowest.
Exactly. This is assuming you're making the lowest payment amount that you can pay. So how much do I pay the second month? Realize on the test I will have, 2 or 3, 4 rows of this stuff you'll have to do. The first box, if you happen to calculate that incorrectly, I'll have to mark it wrong. But the next box, all it needs to do is be the same number. As long as you repeat this number over and over again, you can miss the first one, but you'll still get all the other ones right. Okay? Because when you're making payments, the whole point is to make the same payment every month. Now, how much interest did I generate the next month? Realize that you did lower your principal, so your interest will drop.
926.67.
Did it drop a lot? No. If it does drop a lot, you did it wrong. Okay? From month to month, these things should change a little, not a lot. Okay? So if I had to pay $926.67 in interest, how much did I pay off of my mortgage? $318.71. Again, the number is a little bit higher. You're paying off a little bit more on your loan. How much do we owe now?
201,864.04.
We're almost under $200,000. Okay, in the third month, let's assume that in the third month you got tired of writing $1,245.38 in your mortgage and you said, look, screw this crap. I'm just going to pay $1,300. Right? It's just easier, right? I mean, shouldn't even take you 2 months to get that, but let's suppose that that month we just said, screw this crap, I'm going to pay $1,300. As long as you pay at least that amount, your bank doesn't complain. If you'd have written the check for $1,200, there would have been problems, yeah. They would have said, well, you owe the rest on top of it, and there will be these fees and these penalties, and there will be late fee and costs, etc., etc., etc. Don't do that. Always pay at least the minimum. Now, how much interest did we generate this month? Again, use the new principal to calculate it. But it is the same formula, simple interest. 925.21. What does how much principal did we pay this time? Remember, we paid the $1,300.
374.79.
I'm not doing too good here yet. 201. What are we down to? 4 something.
489.25.
Awesome. So let's see if that $1,300 payment made a difference, right? So after you made the $1,300 payment, you realized that the $55 extra payment that you made kind of hurt a little bit more than you thought. You know, you went to go out one night and you're like, wait a second, I don't think we can afford to go out to dinner this week. Let's go back to our $1,245.38 payment. I mean, remember when you made out this mortgage, you decided to do it in 25 years instead of 30, so, you know. So let's see if that $1,300 payment made a difference. Did it make a big difference? What was our interest the next month? $923.40. That was a huge difference, that extra $55, right?
Right, $2.40.
Yeah, well.
Could have kept your money.
Yeah, it's one of those where.
Well, it made a little difference in the principal paid, though.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, exactly, right? The nice part about it is whenever you pay extra, all of that extra always goes all the way to the principal, right? That's the nice part about it. Which is why you do want to pay a little bit extra every month if you can get away with it. So, what did we pay in principal the next month? Back to
321.89.
Dang, we didn't even get under 201,000. But we were close. 201, what is it, 160?
167.36.
36. So again, just be able to fill in the table accordingly, and I will probably on the test tell you that one of your payments will be more or less, well, no, not less, more, so that so that I can make sure that you understand the concept behind all of this stuff. All right, but this is your amortization table. Now, what I'd like to do,
Well, you hit the fifth month, you get under,
you get under 201,000.
you do, you get $200,844 at the fifth month. But get a little excited about that. He touched the computer.
What?
We're in math class, and you're touching your computer.
Oh, what's wrong with that?
You do?
No.
We're watching a movie?
Yes,
Sort of.
that's over $6,000 to come down $2,000. Are you kidding me?
I'll tell you what, it's better than rent.
All right, so I would like to play around, just showing you a little bit about how this works, right? So I don't want to have to make you write out all those numbers, but you should see them, right? So here's our $202,500 mortgage. What was our payment amount?
$1245.38.
$1245.38. Now, interest. The interest is at 5.5% in 1 month, right? So it's the amount that we borrowed up here, this column, times our 5.5%, 0.55, and then essentially times 1/12. That's the same as dividing by 12, right? That'll cap. That's a little high.
That's not right.
Oh, I have. This is 2 million.
Right.
There we go. So what I need all this to be money. Okay, what's column C?
Principal paid.
Principal paid. How do I figure that out?
So that's gonna be
A
A minus
minus
C.
A minus B. Right? And now how do I figure out this column?
D minus C.
I want to do D minus C.
So you click on the column.
After you hit the
Symbol
equal
on.
sign, yeah, you click on the column and that'll say, grab that column. The nice part about these things is that they're all formulas, right?
Right.
So when you work with Excel, you can copy formulas just by clicking and dragging them down. So I can repeat this process over and over and over again, right? So equals A2.
Does it automatically just do it once you press the one in?
Yep.
So you just highlight each row, and what I'm doing is making sure that it repeats each number here. That's why I said it equals the row above it. Now, I have to do this how many times?
300.
300. Give me a second.
Well, except for in the third month, we paid $1,300.
We'll get there, we'll get there.
So this is what this guy's paid to do.
Yeah, there's some guy who's paid to do this, right? That's what the banker does for you because he's so nice. So here it is. Here's our 300th payment where we're just getting our mortgage down to $55. Why doesn't it get down to 0?
Something wrong.
Because it was an approximate.
This is an approximation. And think about it. You're trying to pay an equal amount every month so that you get down to 0 after 300 payments. Is there going to be a penny amount that you can pay? No. All they're doing is getting you the closest they could get. In this case, it's going to cost you an extra $55 1 month longer in order to handle that, right? No biggie, but that's part of the game. So, one of the things that I like to say right off the bat is, okay, so imagine, if you will, that we changed our payments. Instead of being this $1,245.38, let's suppose we paid $1,300 every month, right? So since I set it up as a formula that says make each number the same as the one above it, all of those numbers now change to $1,300. How much sooner am I going to pay off this loan by paying an extra $55 a month? What do you think?
Let's find out.
About 250, row 250.
Think it's going to make a, like a couple of year difference? Or is it only going to be a couple of months difference?
A couple months.
A couple of months, you think? Well, let's see. It made a 26-month difference.
2 years.
2 years.
Oh.
Just by paying an extra $55 a month. Right?
That wasn't too far off.
So it's not too bad, right? I mean, this is why you make early payments. I mean, think about that. By paying an extra $55, you saved 27 or 26 of these payments, right? All you gotta do is make that sacrifice. Now, what happens if I'd have said, well, let's suppose that how many months difference does it make if we just went a little bit over it, like say $1,250? I mean, that's only $5, right?
Maybe like 6 months.
Think,
Not much.
what do you think? 2, 3, 6, 12? What do you think?
I don't think it's 6.
They don't work anymore.
Well, let's see. My guess is it's like 4. Not quite 4, only 3. Right, so, but again though, still, $5. And again, who wants to write this number on their check?
You saved almost 2,000. I was gonna say.
Yeah, $5 is saving you 3 times this number, which
So
is
like almost $4,000.
almost $4,000 by paying an extra $5, by basically just rounding this up to the nearest $10 increment. And $5, folks, I mean, that's, that's not even a lunch, right?
Coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah, true. Tell my wife that. Now, again though, notice where most of your payments are made. In the very beginning, how much were we paying per month off of our loan? Nothing, like $300. Note what happened at the very end though. Each of our payments,
Went up.
yeah,
Well, our interest
Wait. Yeah, our interest is going way down because the amount of money that we're borrowing per month is obviously going way down, right? You pay the majority of your loan at the end. That's the way it works. Again, though, you got to start slow. This is a very slow process. Yes, it is extremely painful to look at. I mean, God, it's awful. I mean, this kind of stuff that.
I figured this out by looking at my car lot. I'm like, no, there should be more. No, well, that's all we pay all your interest first. Huh?
It just looks bad is the problem, right? One of the other things I like to do, 12, 45, 38. Let's imagine that instead of paying, let's just pay $1 more. And now let's make it progressive. So that the dollar gets added on every month. So, not just $1 more, but every month you say, okay, look, I'm just going to add $1. Right. One more than what you paid every other month. Right? So it's just $1 the first month, but then technically it's 2 the second, and 3 the third, and 4 the fourth. Right? I mean, but it's still just every month you just say, well, how much did I pay last month? I'm going to pay $1 more. Right? How much difference is that going to make? What do you think?
It's probably a year.
A year, you think?
No, it's not gonna make get up there.
You're going to pay this off $250. You're going to pay this off 5 years sooner.
Wow.
Of course, look what your last payment is. I mean, your last payment is $1,500 some odd dollars.
So it's 250 more.
Yeah. Basically, you said, oh, I'm going to change my, my 25-year loan to a 20-year loan by just paying $1 more. Every month, figure out how to pay $1 more. $1. That's all it takes. Right? What I did for the first 5 years of my loan was I paid $20 more each month. Made my loan go down so fast, it was ridiculous. 5 years, $20. My 30-year loan had already become a 20-year loan. We actually, after the end of that 5-year period where I was doing that, we refinanced it to a 20-year loan and actually lowered our payments. Because I just paid off that much of the loan already. Again, though, it was really tough the end of that 5th year. I mean, because $20 extra a month, I was paying an extra $400 on my mortgage. Payments were not nuts. I mean, I had a $700 or $800 mortgage, so I was paying $1,200 on it, which was painful, but it's a difference. I mean, crazy amount of difference, okay? This stuff in Excel, obviously I'm not going to ask you to do this on a test. You will do this in your business classes when you get up there. They will definitely force you to learn how to use spreadsheets. That's part of playing around with a business class, right? So if you're getting any kind of a business degree, you will do this eventually. It's just part of the game. And it's nice, right? Because it gives you a feel, it allows you to play. You can play all kinds of games like this, right? So just say that in the first couple of months you pay $1,500 on your mortgage for a year, and then go back down to the $1,245 or whatever it is and see what the difference is, right? These are fun games to play. And the best part about it is that the more you look at it, the more you realize how much money you're saving, and the more you can convince yourself to actually do it.
So if you're paying extra each month, and then
That's pretty cool.
after 5 years, like something happens 1 month and you can't come up with your payment?
It's already paid.
You can always, you do have to go, you do always have to pay the minimum amount per month, even if you paid more before.
So all those extra payments aren't counting?
They're just counting off of the principal,
Oh,
not
right.
off of what your minimum payment
You
has to
still
be.
have to
That's
make
right,
your
you have to make your monthly
Yeah,
payment.
that's why it's a little scary to start off getting a 20-year loan, right? What a lot of banks or a lot of financial advisors will say is get the 30-year mortgage, but then make your payment a 20-year payment. And so every time you can pay at the 20-year rate, you're paying it off at 20 years. But if you run into a cash problem, you can always go back to the 30-year payment, right? So again, though, it's one of those where what they'll tell you, though, is that as soon as you start paying it at the low rate and get used to that, you'll get used to it, right? But if you start at the very beginning by saying, I'm not going to pay this that other example we were working on, the $700 versus the $800, if you start paying a loan off at the higher rate and just do it for a year, you'll learn, you'll figure out how to work without the money. And once you've done it, it's easy as pie. Because you don't know it's there. Right? It's your expectations that you're setting. It's more of a, this turns into a philosophy class, a psychology class instead of a math class, but that's the goal. So again though, you guys gotta decide what's good for you, so I'm just trying to give you good financial advice, if at all possible. So that's really all there is to chapter 15. So we're done. The homework, please do 2 through 16, I think, the evens. There are 16 in this chapter, right? Yeah. Yeah, 2 through 16. 8 problems, that's all there is to it. So, another relatively short problem. Next week is our last week of lectures, folks. Next week we will cover chapter 22, which is about statistics and graphing and all the other kind of nice fun stuff. And then after that, it's tests and finals. So, one more week of stuff, and then it's just get ready for some tests.
Are you gonna give us some reviews for the final?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Are we having like notes on this test, like a note sheet with the formulas?
You have to use this.
So was any of our notes that we worked on there?
You have to use this.
Yeah, you can put any notes in there.
What about, for the final and
Same
things?
thing.
You have to use this.
Okay. I already got rid of all that stuff. Body.
Well, no, I mean, you need this book, right? So,
Any questions?
5?
What?
On the final exam?
Maybe like 55 instead.
No, it'll probably be like 20 or so. Again, most of them will have multiple
And it
parts.
is cumulative?
Yes, the final is cumulative, right? Over everything.
Probably fun.
But I'll put the review up on Blackboard this week for the final.
Like equation wise, like not our second test, I missed some days, so like didn't really have like our equations. Are you gonna kind of go over those with us again? You think, or-
We'll review everything, so.
I can print out some.